So we're gonna start doing the scab. So you're gonna wanna take one of your cornflakes, your cup of liquid latex, and I have my liquid latex currently in just a solo cup like this. And so take your solo cup like that. And then I cut about this much of it off and then just kind of filled the bottom with a little bit. You don't need too much for this. It doesn't really take a lot. And then you're gonna wanna pick whatever cornflake you like. So I'm gonna go with this one. Okay, and then you're gonna wanna take a Q-tip or your fingers, whichever you're more comfortable with using, and you're gonna dip it into your latex. And then you're gonna wanna put a little bit of that down on your leg or wherever you wanna put the scab. So I'm gonna put a little bit right here. Just like that. You don't want too much, you don't want it to be like too big of an area, just kind of like the size of where you're gonna put your cornflake. And then you're gonna wanna take a little bit more latex and then Q-tip and just put it on one side of the cornflake for now. So whichever one's gonna go down against the surface, like that. And then you're just gonna wanna kind of hold it there for a sec and then start putting more latex on the top. So you're just gonna cover both sides. And it's okay if it lifts off, just kind of hold it down and put more on. We're gonna cover the edges in some cotton just so it doesn't move, but you just wanna try to soak the cornflake as best as you can in the latex. Like that. And then I just have I took a cotton ball like this. Well, let me get the latex off my hands real quick. And you just want to push basically from the center up. You just want to push from the center up like this, and then they should unravel kind of like straight out. Like so. So you just kind of will end up having like strips of cotton like that. And then you're going to want to take the edge of a piece and just really pull like a real thin piece off, like as thin as you can get it. And then you're gonna take your latex again and cover that cotton in the latex. And then you're just going to want to take it and just put it right on the edges of the cornflake, like that. Do that just again, just go all around it. So we're doing this just so the cornflake doesn't lift off and stays down. And don't worry about like if the edges look super messy. Scabs aren't very smooth around the edges anyways. And your fingers are going to end up getting really sticky, so just keep that in mind. And make sure, wherever you're doing this, don't wear clothes that you particularly like, or just put something down on top of your clothes, because if you do get latex on them, it does not come out. So I went all the way around like that, and then I'm just going to cover it again a little bit more in latex. And then I'm going to take the other side and just clean up just so there's not so much around the outside. And then you will know that the latex is dry when it goes clear, so we're just going to let that sit for a minute. As you can see, the edges of it did go clear, so that's when you know it's going to be dry. The center of it won't actually go completely clear because of the cotton and because of the cornflakes. So when it starts looking like this, like see this one's almost dry. You see how these edges are still a little bit white. Those still need to like dry up a little bit. So we'll paint this one that I did off camera while this was drying once we're done with this. So to paint this, I'm going to start by using the Ben Nye Special Effects wheel in the EW4 Master Bruise. And I'm just going to be using the base. I'm going to be using also just any type of like eyeshadow brush you want, or a Q-tip, whatever you want to use. I'm just going to be using an eyeshadow brush in this sake. I'm going to be using mainly these two reds along with the Ben Nye Pro effects wheel in the ZW, so it's the zombie wheel. So I'm also going to be using the 2 reds in here, and I also might use a little bit of the blue and maybe some yellows, kind of depending on how I feel once I start painting it. So I'm going to start by using the 2 darker colors. So this one first. I'm just going to put a little bit on to the brush, and I'm just going to start stippling kind of like this onto the bruise. Onto the scab. And you can kind of paint them however you want and however you feel looks like a scab to you. I usually just use darker colors just because scabs usually are dried up blood, so it's usually kind of like darker reds and browns. I'll put a few like purples in there. So that's what that one is. That's more of a purpley. And you don't want to go too far like onto your actual skin. You want to keep it pretty much just on the white parts. And also depending on how old the scab is, also kind of depends on the coloring. If you want to do like a newer one, it might be a little bit more of light reds versus dark reds. I'm going to make these ones look a little bit older. So they're going to be a little bit darker. You just want to try to get as much of the white as you can covered. I'm going with some yellows too. Use this more of like a bright purple, kind of like a little bit on the edges. Like that. And then you can also, if you want to, take, I'm just gonna clean off my brush real quick. You can take more of like a lighter red on, so in this cup I kind of have just a ton of like broken up little pieces of sponge. On any type of sponge you would like. It doesn't really matter what, just take kind of like a small little chunk like that and dip it in like a lighter red, like whatever you have, and just kind of go on the very edges just to give it a little bit of a red look. And then we're gonna blend that out a little bit more, but kind of just put it on the edges. You see how there's the little bit of light red right there? I'm gonna take another one of my Q-tips and then just kind of do little circular motions and just blend outwards. And it's okay if it doesn't blend perfectly because there might be a little bit of latex right there on the edges. So just keep swirling. It should start blending out on its own, and you might be able to just kind of rub away some of the latex pieces kind of like that, so it kind of blends out nicely. Just sit there and just little circular motions until you feel that it's blended to whatever you like, and you can add a little bit more color if you feel there's not enough in certain areas on the Q-tip, and just little circles. Kind of like that. And then I am going to take, so at this point these 2 steps are optional if you would like to. I'm gonna take, this is called Ben Nye Thick Blood, or you can use just any type of blood you would like, and on a Q-tip I'm gonna just put a little bit of this on there, but it is optional if you do not like that kind of stuff. Just gonna put a little bit of that just kind of on there, just in like random places, like wherever you feel there would be some. Like there was a little hole, I don't know if the camera picked up on it, but there's a little hole right there, so I kind of put it in there. I'm gonna put it some on these little edges that didn't blend the nicest. Just cover them up just a little bit. I like that. Anywhere that's like super deep pocket, I'll put a little bit in there. And with things like this, a little bit of blood really does go a long way, so you don't need to do a lot. Kind of like that, just so there's just a little bit in there. And then this stuff, I will leave the recipe on how to make this. I'll give it to Stephanie so she can show you guys. It's just like hair gel that you buy at Walmart, like the $2 big jugs, and like paint. It's the apple barrel paint from Walmart. If I'm not wrong, they're around somewhere, I think the most is like $1 in just like a skin tone kind of color. And then I'm just gonna take the back of a eyebrow brush like this just to scoop a little bit of this out. I'm gonna mix a little bit of it up. Not a lot, just scoop a little bit out. And I'm just gonna lightly put this on here just to make it kind of look a little more wet and oozy. Like that. And then I'm gonna real quick just paint the other one for you guys. I'm gonna do the other one in a little bit more of lighter colors. Maybe make it look more like a fresh one, where this kind of looks more old and gross. I'm just taking the same brush. You know, actually I'll do this one in cotton, in Q-tips, just so you can see that you can do it like that. So I'm gonna take a little bit of this red on here and just start dabbing it on like this. I will say Q-tips are a little bit harder to use than using a brush, but it is possible. When you use the Q-tips, you want to do more of just like a tapping motion just to dab it in. And with this one, I'm really sticking with just that light red and kind of just layering it so it's darker in certain areas and lighter in others. I'm going to take some of that purple. Just like running the purple kind of on the edges just to darken everything up a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit of green. I'll just throw that in there. And then if you ever do put a little too much on there, you can always just take like the back of the Q-tip, and I just pulled that little fuzz off that had a little bit of color on just so you don't waste so many. You can just take that on a clean side and just kind of dab it off and blend it back out, and you can always just recover it with more of like a red if you would like, if it's too much. Really making sure to get all the little edges and stuff. So I said this one is supposed to look a little bit more fresh, so it's gonna be mainly just red, where that one was more like kind of like purplies and darker red brownies. This is gonna be more just bright reds and like some light purples. I put a little bit of green in there just for some contrast, along with I'm gonna throw a little bit of yellow in there just for a little bit more of depth in it. I'm gonna switch back to using the brush just to get like the tiny little areas that I can't reach with the Q-tip. You can, for the most part, use a Q-tip for the base areas, like the bulk of getting the paint job done, but when it comes to the finer little details, the brush does come in handy. So I am just dragging that red color down that is just all around, because there would be more irritation in this area if it was something fresh like this. So we are just going to really fluff this out. And I'm not, as you can see, using any more product than what was kind of already on the brush and around in the area. So I'm just using all that excess to blend out. And there is just a little piece of latex right there that was in the way, so I just took my finger and kind of rubbed on it lightly, and it just scraped off. That's a cool thing. Latex does come off pretty easily on the edges if they do cause problems with you making the edges a little bit red. Just kind of rub them with your finger and they'll come off. Like that. And then for this one, I'm going to be taking this is the Fleet Street Bloodworks in Drying Fresh Blood. Now, this is more of an expensive brand. I'm not saying you guys have to get this. You can use whatever you guys find. Like, this is also another one that I have. This is a Ben Nye Stage Blood. This one you can put near your mouth and in your mouth, where these ones you can't, so don't put these anywhere near the face area. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this on just the back of this spoolie again. I'm just going to put a little bit of that just kind of on the center. Just a little bit. Just so it can do its, and then it will kind of like move around on its own, since this is a liquid versus the other one, which was a thicker like gel. And then again, I'm just going to take a little bit of that hair gel stuff on the back of my finger. I'm just going to put it kind of like more around like the edges on like my skin versus actually on like the scab. Just to give it an overall kind of wet look. I was going to do that to the other one as well, just kind of the skin surrounding it. I will be leaving the description and like a description of all the products I do use in this video for you guys, just so it'd be easier for you to get the products if you do want to do this. And then yeah, that is how you do these scabs. Thank you guys for watching.